It's 4:06. Is everybody good with the way we're set up? If so, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Can all of you hear me or see the interpreter? Okay. As I just said, Wallace is absent today. He had a work commitment. He could not come. But we do have a quorum. It's good to see everybody. Did you enjoy your month off last month? I seem to have missed it.
It was nice.
Good. I have two amendments to add to the agenda. One is our student of the month. We're going to discuss how we're going to begin presenting that. And the second one will be a new business, and it will have to do with Eddie. I have to make sure I get this wording right. Early hearing detection, is that right, Kristen? Thank you. Okay, and that's all I have. Does anybody else have anything they need to add to the agenda? Okay. Do I have a motion to amend the agenda as to accept the agenda as amended?
Tammy?
Thank you, Tammy. Second.
Second. Tammy saying I move to modify the agenda and add those two items.
Okay, thank you.
I was gonna list them out.
Oh, she's
Being
gonna list them.
the early hearing detection, and the other one being the student reports.
Okay. Thank you. Did everybody get a chance to read the minutes from August 7th? We have any discussion on those minutes? Can I get a motion to approve? Jimmy?
Tammy saying I second.
Thank you. Okay, I have a motion first and second. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving the minutes, raise your hand. Thank you. Okay. Our wayward lawyer has come home.
Nancy.
For those of you that didn't know, our lawyer has been visiting in Ireland, and he came back with an Irish brogue.
Unless you're Irish and then you know that.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to you for a minute, Chris, and let you do our legal updates if you have any.
The only update, and Dr. Todd can help me with this, is that you did have additional funding in one of the mini budgets that has been passed by the General Assembly. So that was wonderful news, and I understand that an additional $400,000 that is awaiting the governor's signature. Okay. And then the only other update is that we are still waiting on internal conversations of the Department of Administration about the MOU, and I have not heard back from the attorney yet. But my understanding is that that is having no impact on the ability of your staff to get advice and consultation from the staff at the Department of Administration. So I think they're working through some issues on what they want the exact language to be in the agreement. But at least my understanding, Dr. Todd, is they are currently being very helpful with helping your staff out when you need assistance. So that's all good news. We did have some technical changes that we really want to see happen, but we are being held hostage by the budget impasse like all other legislation.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Chris, are there any restrictions on that 400,000?
Not that I know of.
Did they give you any?
Yeah.
They didn't put you in a box with it, we just have that additional funding.
And it would probably be good when Wallace and Dr. Todd and others are ready for there to be a full budget update for the board.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, with all the expenditures and everything else.
Well,
Yeah. And then too, one thing I recommend to all of my clients is that at every board meeting, there should be some type of fiscal update on a balance sheet. What are the expenditures? What are the revenues? Are you on track budget wise? And there are several examples I can provide, but for the finance folks in the rooms, it's just a balance sheet to show where you are in terms of revenues, expenditures. And it's really probably not helpful right now to compare that to last year. But after this year, I think having that year to date with a prior year's comparison is going to be very valuable for me.
yeah, and I appreciate that recommendation because with our budget not having been passed and we not have an actual budget in hand, that's good to know. It's good to know where we are. We know we're in a little bit of stretch, but it's good to know where we are. And Dr. Todd, did you want to say anything about any of the DOA conversations you've had as far as maybe them wanting some fees or something?
Sure. So I have been contacted by the secretary of Department of Administration. It was a very friendly gentleman, very prompt. He did have a message that was supporting that the DOA is going to continue handling our budget and HR. But they are looking into the per hour rate and the hours so far and how much they've been helping and how much that's going to cost. And then we'll have to designate specific amounts that the DOA is then going to assign us an amount of $60,000. And compared to the Eastern School for the Deaf, it's similar. Also, that 60,000 to the Governor Moorhead School as well. Oh, excuse me, actually more than 60,000 for them. So that's something that Chris and I have talked about together, and he and I have both been going back with the DOA back and forth for the MOU with Chris and their lawyer have been going back and forth. Sorry, not me. I've not been part of that. Chris and their lawyer have been going back and forth about that MOU.
Question to that, Chris. Did we pay DPI for any services before?
So this is Chris. So the structure with DPI was legally different, and then of course physically different as a result. Legally it was different because you were part of DPI. So DPI was providing services for you like it would for any other constituent of its agency. So no, there wasn't specific funding, but DPI does pay, for example, the Attorney General's office. DPI pays the Attorney General's office for legal representation. So there are agencies that have to pay other agencies. We've been real clear by correspondence dating back to August from our office to the DOA attorney that there is nothing in the legislation that says that the three schools will have to pay anything. for consultation supports in these areas. So they asked that that be put into the MOU. We declined, saying it's not part of the legislation. They said that they were going to have some internal discussions. That was on August the 11th. And right before I went on vacation on September 5th, I emailed back again and said, we're just waiting to hear back. And I gave them that message on November 5th. So I think this conversation happened after my November 5th email to the attorney. So I'll be reaching back out to her. So there is no agreement right now. There's nothing in the legislation that requires you to pay, and there's no agreement between the two boards. So stay tuned. We'll be back. I understand them wanting, and we said very clearly, if the General Assembly were to earmark funding, then certainly that would be part of it. So I don't want to presuppose where they may come from, and it is something that you, in my opinion, couldn't consider doing, even if there wasn't necessarily a mandate, but I don't want to go down roads that we don't have to yet.
Yeah.
So we're waiting to hear back from you.
Well, it's
not legally required.
Well-
That was a long way of saying it's not legally required.
well, it's interesting in that the discussion that we had in person with DOA in Raleigh, when we went down, there was nothing mentioned about us paying for services, but I can certainly see where state agencies get that inclination because it's readily done. Okay, thank you very much for that, and we will stay tuned for whatever happens from that. Anybody have any questions about any of the process we're going through with DOA, Department of Administration? Okay. I want to bring up something right here in new business, and that right before we get the superintendent's report. And that is where I would like to talk about how we are going to change Student of the Month. We've been doing this at the very beginning of the board meetings, and I had a conversation with Sandy Manning yesterday about it just seems kind of cold to me when we have the certificate and we have no students present, and they just kind of get it in the hall or the classroom or something. And there's nothing special about that. So Sandy and I talked yesterday, and I think what we are going to do as a board of trustees, and you all tell me if you agree or disagree, is hold our Student of the Month recognition until the Christmas tea. And then we will present their September, October, and November Student of the Month. The school has already picked them. They know who they are, but this will give us a chance to recognize the student in front of their peers. We'll get to give the certificate, and they'll realize it's coming from the Board of Trustees. So I think that you tell me what you think or how you feel about that, but I just think it'll be a little more meaningful to the student themselves.
This is Tammy. I think that would be great. That is actually a great idea. Yeah. And I think, and so I would have to agree with those comments, what you said, Sandy, and if Sandy Manning's also in agreement with that. I think that'd be great. Let's award the students those certificates at Christmas tea. That would be perfect.
Everybody's got a hand up.
Yeah, so this
Jimmy?
is Jimmy. So since we meet every 2 months, of course, as a board, with a student, I don't know, we could do every 2 months, since we've got a small number of students, just throwing that out. Maybe we don't need to do it monthly for the students, as far as the chosen students, choose them every 2 months. And this is Jimmy. So I'm wondering, Jimmy, you're saying you don't want to wait until the Christmas tea? Are you saying, oh yeah, Jimmy says we could, of course, yeah, we could definitely wait until the Christmas tea. But I'm saying choose the students every 2 months since we meet every 2 months as a board. And we could announce that, right, because I know we do back and forth. We've got virtual meetings, we've got in-person meetings. Maybe, it gets kind of lost, but anyway, just an FYI, throwing that out there. This is Tammy. So is there another special day that we could celebrate in the spring? I understand that December
Could we
or
do
around December,
last
got
day?
Christmas tea. What about in the spring? Is there a special day that those could be awarded?
We have,
Dr. Todd said any day.
I just asked Dr. Todd, we do have class day at the end of the year when we could come in and do the last half, second semester. I have people on either side. Go ahead, Mickey.
This is Mickey. I think another reason that would be a good idea, Sandy said that we could have parents possibly there for those students. That would be a plus. And talking about springtime, we have Founder's Day, right, in April
That would
and
be
May
We
Day.
got
So
May
there might be
Day.
some other,
This is Kristen,
times.
Dr. Todd, we've got May Day. And I think we'll have science fair, that's planned. That's gonna be in the spring. So that would be another opportunity for parents to
Mhm.
be here.
That'd
That would
be
be
good.
better, I think, if the parents were in
Before-
attendance.
Before I recognize Dr. Tate, let me address Jimmy. Jimmy, you recommended every 2 months. The school is already picking one a month. This could be something we could address next year, depending on how we set up our meetings, but since the school is already choosing those, I would hate to say, well, we'll take this one, but we're not going to take that one. So,
And Judy says that'll be fine.
okay, good deal.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Candace?
Sure, that works. So this is Candace. This is what I'm wondering. If we talk about exactly what the criteria is for earning student of the month, what is the criteria? Is there a brief, can you give me a brief description on what criteria they use?
No, go ahead.
Say, this is Dr. Todd. Let's say the students show exemplary character or motivation or academic achievement. Actually, it just kind of depends. It depends on the individuals and it can be individualistic. It doesn't have to be the top student as far as academics are concerned. But it can be a student, it can be any student, Deaf Plus, it can be anybody who shows good character. It actually depends on those individual students. And this is Dr. Tate. So two things to follow up to that. One is, do we want to stay with an actual paper certificate? Is that good enough? Or do we want to add something to that, something that can be given to the student that really recognizes that student? And secondly, the second part of that is with the younger kids, we need more, something that's very immediate. And immediate recognition, because if we hold it and it doesn't happen until later, I think it's hard for them to recognize, oh, this was related to what behavior that I had. Maybe that was a few months back that they got recognized. I don't know if we can do something that is a certificate or something that can happen just good, something that shows something that's immediate. And I know they want to keep that certificate, but something that is they're recognized close to that behavior in time. Those are the two things I'd like to throw out in that
Okay.
regard.
I'm going to come back to those and then I'm going to ask for discussion. One thing, certificates really don't cost us as a board anything big. If we go into, you know where I'm going. we have no money as a board. So if we go into other things, then it start, we're gonna have to begin to put into a pot or something.
My idea, this is Dr. Tate here, so, lunch with the board member of their choice, for example. That, something like that, something, we don't have to do anything that's costly, but it's a
Okay.
donation of time. We're giving time as opposed to something monetary.
That I can
Yeah,
live with.
something that they would cherish.
Go ahead, Dr. Todd.
And this is Dr. Todd. So I just want to mention that the school does recognize the student of the month with, see, we also have no money, so, we go do like the Dollar Tree or something like that, but they do get something that is that immediate recognition and something that's tangible. So I was thinking the same thing that you mentioned, Candace.
Like this, Candace, and what we could do is I can go back to Sandy and get the names for September and October, and maybe give them a choice of having lunch with a board member. We would need to know if we need to be here for that, or if we could have lunch with them somewhere special in the dining room, or whatever you think would be appropriate, Dr. Todd. And we could do that for the first 3 months. And get their names. I will tell you that being on campus and Mickey and I being in and out of the building a lot, the students are beginning to recognize us, even out of our role in this room. They're beginning to recognize us. Share your story. This is Mickey.
I, as a member of the foundation, I went to Dick's Sporting Goods with our athletic director and used the foundation's credit card to purchase some cross-country shoes for some students. And when I was waiting for them inside Dick's, and when they got there, Tom Riley asked them, they said, do you two know this lady? And one student immediately said, of course I know her. She's a member of the board of trustees. It was so funny. I was very tickled and pleased.
Tammy says that's.
Well, it's good that our students are beginning to realize us for our role, but they're also getting more comfortable in saying hello. And I've been in the hallway out here when they come from lunch, and it's one fist bump after another. It's just really neat. I just really appreciate the interaction with the kids. But let's think about how we could work that out, Dr. Todd, and see if we could do that as something special. I really like that. So now to the superintendent's report. I like saying that, by the way.
We have 60 students currently. And we have had 8 new students since August. We also have 7 prospective students that are considering and in process. We have 3 called visiting students. And that means that they are participating in our CTE class from Guilford County. And we're trying this out this semester, and then hopefully we might be able to offer more deaf students an opportunity, depending on locations that are within the catchment. We have a new cross-country team, as Mickey was mentioning. And it's some like to run. I don't understand that, but some people like that. But they are going to be participating in the Catawba County United Way Invitational. And that organization is really highlighting deaf for this event. And they're sharing. Sue Thomas is going to be sharing her, I guess not, she's passed away, so it's her story. She's not actually going to be sharing it, but they're going to be sharing her story at that event. And so it's exciting. We had fall testing. We had alumni day. I think we had, we'll have this Saturday, we'll have alumni day coming up. And we have been invited to submit a workshop for Smart Start Conference. And that's gonna be in 2026. And that's gonna be a wonderful way where we can talk about language acquisition of deaf children. And we finally have identified a staff member who can become mentors for certain other staff members or deaf mentors as deaf mentors. And that will be something that we're going to work with as far as a family immersion during the summer, June 28th through July 1st. For me.
Congratulations. This is Sandy. Congratulations. That's great. I really like the fact that you're going to be able to do a workshop for Smart Start. That is wonderful. And congratulations to the cross-country team. Understand that one young man did very well.
Yes, already 9 miles. 9-minute mile.
Mhm.
Yeah, already running a 9-minute mile. I could not.
Of course, when I stand beside this young man, I'm about at his waist, so he's got the legs for it.
Yes, he could probably run 2 miles.
Yeah, he
in 9
probably
minutes.
could.
He's that tall. Yeah.
Okay, we have some policies that we need to look at today. This may take us a minute, but just so everybody knows, and I'm going to turn it over to Mickey to go through these, but there will be some updates as we go through these. And these are new business, so there will be first readings. All of you should have gotten a copy of this in the Google Drive. So you should have been able to look at these, okay?
This is Mickey. We had, like Cindy says, we have several policies that this is the first reading. We've had members of the policy committee look at some of these. Sandy and I have discussed some of these, and I have discussed with Dr. Todd some of these. Actually, the first one, which is 4,700 student records, it's quite lengthy, and I had Dr. Todd look at that because I didn't think anybody else was qualified to judge if it was what we needed here at our school, because it's about all the different types of school records, like academic, discipline, cumulative, attendance, criminal, whatever. The security of those records, like who they can be released to, when those policies, when those records can be destroyed. So different things like that. But Dr. Todd looked at those for me, bless her heart, and all her family things with her dad having surgery. She was still saying, I know I gotta look at that policy. But she said she thought it looked fine. So that one we'll take its first reading. Next one is confidentiality of personal information, 4705 or 7825, whichever one you look at. And we did 4705, I think. This is protecting not only students, but employees, personal information. Of course, the first thing that would come to mind is your social security number. And there's a list of rules and regulations to make sure that those things are protected. And then equal educational opportunities, that's 4001. It's basically what it says, ensuring that every child has receives a free and appropriate education, basic and a sound basic education. That one was very short. I like that kind. Even I can understand that. And now the next one was 2310, public participation at board meetings. And Sandy would like to discuss that with you a little bit.
I want to ask the board's opinion on this. We have not to date had any public participation in board meetings. I hope all of you have taken the time to read through this policy and see how it would be, how things would be set up for us to do this. And I really would like to have some feedback from the board members. And let's see if we feel that we are ready to have public participation. They have some obligations if they want to address the board, in that their written request must be to the superintendent, not to us, but to the superintendent at least 6 working days prior to the meeting. Their request has to include name, address of the person or persons making that request. And then the superintendent and I would talk about whether or not to approve the requested item on the agenda and to determine an appropriate meeting. So you all let me know how you feel, if you feel that we are. Chris?
Well, let me give a little more context. This is Chris for the board members. So, board chair is right. The policy talks about a way that a member of the public can actually get on the agenda. So right now, if a member of the public wanted to get on the agenda, they can still contact the superintendent, still talk to the board chair, because as you know, your superintendent and your board chair set the agenda. So you don't have to, point one, you don't have to have a policy for someone to get on the agenda. A citizen who had something to talk to you about and wanted to do that as part of your agenda could make that request, and those 2 individuals would decide whether to honor that request. So that's a way that they can get on the meeting to begin with. Point number 2 is, unlike school boards, you are not required to have public comment. So I want to make sure that everyone understands the distinction between being on the agenda and giving public comment. So what we've talked about so far is being on the agenda and not having a time limit. Say you want to do a presentation to the board. A lot of the boards are legally required to have public comment periods, and that is generally no more than 3 minutes, where anyone can stand up and speak to you about something that pertains to the school in a public comment session. So this policy actually talks about both a member of the public getting on the agenda and an opportunity for there to be public comment. You are not legally required to have public comment. So this is completely a decision for you to make as a board, at what level and by what mechanisms do you want the public to be able to participate in your meetings. And obviously, when I say member of the public, I'm also talking about parents and teachers and folks that are also part of your school community. The last thing I'll say briefly, because I think you do need to just talk about it this evening at 30,000 feet, so to speak, as to whether you want to have a formal process or not. But if you do decide to move forward with public comment, I have a much more detailed version of this policy that prevents people from bringing employee complaints to you. This particular version from the School Boards Association is what I call a softball version. It says things like you should do this and you should do that. I have a much stronger version that says you're only going to hear public comment that relates to the school. You're only going to hear things within your jurisdiction as a board, and you do not take student complaints or personnel complaints in public comment. Those are to go to the superintendent and then come back to the board. So I wanted you to kind of have that. But those are the two questions tonight is, do you want a formal process for individuals to get on your agenda? And do you want to have a public comment session or meetings where public members to comment, the public can make comment too?
And let me ask to clarify, for people to get on the agenda, that's where we would have sponsors of clubs or organizations to come in and talk to us about plans that they may have for future things.
And I'm glad you asked that question. This is Chris again. So the superintendent should always build the agenda for the needs of the school. So if a club sponsor wanted to come give you an update on the activities of the club, you don't need a policy for that. That is the superintendent doing her job to build an agenda and bring things to you. This would be more, let's say there's a community group and they want you to be part of some community fall festival or making something up. But they don't want to just speak for 3 minutes. They actually want to come talk to you about it and have you respond.
Yeah.
And do a PowerPoint and, you know, those types. That's when something needs to be put on the agenda. So for school-related groups, that is generally just something handled by the superintendent as part of formulating the agenda. We're really talking about outside, unaffiliated groups
Okay.
who want to get on your agenda formally.
Does anybody have any question of Chris on that, Candace?
Candace, so from your experience, is that typically a positive thing? Or,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, that's where the big blowups typically, you know.
I would have given a much different answer to that question 5 years ago. I will. I think that there is always utility in having folks that are concerned about your school have the ability to come tell you about it as the governing board. I think that's a cornerstone of democracy for parents or employees to feel like that they can stand up and have their 3 minutes to tell you about how they feel. I think in this day and age, regardless of politics or political affiliation or point of view, you've got to have guardrails. Because regardless of the topic, people don't know how to act. And I think you have to have some guardrails in place. So I think it's part of democracy and it's a good thing to have people have that opportunity to address you. But I do think you have to be thoughtful about it.
This is why I wanted to address the full board with this, because I think everybody should have a request to place an item on the agenda. I don't think is as hairy, for lack of a better word, as public comments are. And I've been asked why we do not have public comments. And my answer has been, to this point, we don't have a policy for that.
Which is a great answer.
But in this policy, we will. So I'd just like to get your feedback and how you feel about having, if you're ready for us to do that, or do you want to wait a little while? I mean, I feel like that since January of 25 has been our first opportunity to really be in the board setting that we were designed to be in. So just let me know what you think about. This is a first reading. We're not going to decide anything tonight, but maybe be thinking about this and come prepared at our next meeting to give some really conscious, well thought feedback to this, especially the public comments. You know, we're going to get them one way or the other. So since it is a first reading, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that before Mickey went on.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Would the board like the alternative version of 2310? Because I can
Please.
email that to Tanya right now and she can distribute that to everyone.
Thank you.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Do it right now?
That'd be great. Go ahead.
Continuing with policies, 4320 is tobacco products. That would be about as you would expect, what's prohibited, what the consequences are. But I was interested to see when I was, that there are also provisions for providing services for students who are trying to abstain from tobacco use and ways that the school can help students do that. So, but it was also very short and straightforward and pretty much as you would expect a tobacco policy to be these days, and even in North Carolina, in public schools. And the last one is 4330 theft, trespass, and damage to property. It addresses what the prohibited behaviors are, what the consequences are, and once again, is pretty much as you would expect. Don't steal, don't trespass, and don't damage anything, or there will be consequences. And that is all we have for first reading.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments or questions or anything about those policies? Okay. Moving on. Next item on our agenda is, I've been asked a couple of times if, the board could have a retreat to talk about where we've been, where we would like to see the school moving forward, and how we can help Dr. Todd and the staff get to that realization. I put it on the agenda so that we could talk about it a little bit and see how everybody felt, because I haven't heard from everybody, but I've heard from quite a few on the board. So tell me how you feel about that, and then we'll have Chris to work out the logistics and the legalities. So I'm opening this up for comment from anybody. I will tell you that I think if we do a board retreat, we should have Chris and Dr. Todd there to answer questions for us. And Dr. Todd can give us part of her vision. I have been fortunate enough to talk to her about some of that, and I'm very excited about the direction we're moving. So let me know how you all feel. And I said something to Dr. Todd about the fact that we got to know each other probably the best when we were having the superintendent search for 2 days. And Jimmy did such a wonderful job of herding the cats. So just let me know what you think about it. Okay? Mickey?
This is Mickey. I agree. I think after those 2 days we spent together, I think we really kind of gelled as a group. It kind of started the very first, when we went to Raleigh for those, the training. We didn't have a clue what we were doing, maybe still don't to a certain extent, but we were better than we were that day, for sure. But we kind of got to know each other for the first time, but then when we had the superintendent search and we were really passionate about what we were doing, I think we really got to know each other as friends and not just colleagues, and it was enjoyable. And I really think we've been better as a board since that time, because I don't know, it just bonded us somehow. So I think the opportunity to do some work and to enjoy each other's company would be beneficial.
And we can do this as briefly as a full day retreat, or whatever you think would be good. I'll refrain from some of the suggestions I got. And
Yeah, this is Candace. So I'd like to hear from Chris about what is possible. And topics that would be included and being able, if we came back from the retreat. With concrete things to show the school and the community about what we accomplished during that retreat. It's not just an all-day party, right? And a social event, right? We would actually have an agenda and results. Sorry about the party.
Chris,
Sure. This is Chris.
hard to follow that.
It's very hard to follow. Yeah, it's kind of fun thinking about all the things that you could say. Exactly. So, in all seriousness, retreats are always wonderful for every reason you stated. Just the camaraderie, getting to know each other better. It's one of the few times that you can brainstorm about, not only policies, but direction of the school and those things. The retreats that I have seen be the most successful, of course, involve the classic elements of some team building, a few icebreakers and things for folks to be able to get to know each other better. But the two formats that I think you can mix in together, first of all, is how much of it do you want to be what I'll call information driven? So in other words, are the things you want to know about as trustees that you really don't have the opportunity to learn about in the board meeting, so that Dr. Todd and her staff can prepare some presentations for you that would then engender some conversation. Whether or not that's residential life or family recruitment. I mean, be thinking about the big ticket items that you're really concerned about as a board. I think a lot of times giving Dr. Todd advance notice of what the topics are that you're interested in brainstorming about, and let her and her staff present to you first as to what the school is doing, what are some of the factual issues, and all of that I think can be very helpful. And then the one question is, do you want it to be facilitated? I've seen some very good facilitated retreats. I've seen some poorly facilitated retreats where the facilitator didn't know where they wanted to go and the board didn't know where they wanted to go. And they would have been better off Dr. Tate having an all-day party probably. So I think you got to be careful thinking that a facilitator is going to take you where you want to get. They feel like you someone to actually facilitate. I think the board spending a little time deciding what topics you want to talk about is probably the most important, element to it. Of course, unless there needs to be a closed session for legal or personnel or student matters, it would be open to the public. So you want to notice it for the public because it's a board meeting, just like any other board meeting. It's under the law. A retreat is a special called board meeting. But social time is not part of a meeting. So if you wanted to have a breakfast or a lunch, it's just each other to spend some social time together, that could be private. If you wanted to, as long as you're not talking about school business during that particular part of the retreat.
It's good to know. All of that is good to know. And others? Does anybody else have some comments they want to make?
And the legal topics too, I don't think you need an attorney to attend an entire retreat. Frankly, I think that's a waste of your limited resources that you're sitting there during. But a lot of boards will use retreats as an opportunity for some training, which you can get credit for, or to answer specific topics or if there's specific things. So I always say you build your agenda and then see whether or not I need to be a part of it or how much of it. But also if you'd like, an hour of training on some particular topic that you can get credit for, be happy to do that too. So I typically do attend retreats. I don't attend the entire retreat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. And I was hoping maybe you could use some of your influence and get us into the Grove Park. Yeah.
There are a few places in Northern Ireland. Highly.
But why don't we do this? these are all good suggestions, and this is good for us to know. How about, 3 of you volunteer to be a committee to, let's decide, you love that word. Committee is a bad word in this room. But to be a board retreat committee to look at topics that you think we need to look at. And then we'll take that list and come back and have a meeting with Dr. Todd. And then we will work on planning how much time would be involved. How the situation could be that we could all get together. And I know for several of you that would mean travel. So let's do that and see where we are. Jimmy, do I have your attention?
Yeah, I'm here.
Would you chair that up for us?
And I am paying attention, Sandy, just so you know, I am paying attention. Yes, I can be chair. Yeah, yeah, you just know it's my way, my way.
And I'll warn anybody that gets ready to volunteer for this, Jimmy is a very early riser. Is a morning person. Do I have 2 more that would like to work with Jimmy on that? Don't all of you say yes at once?
Well, I have another thought,
What's that?
and that is to keep it from actually worrying about committees and open meetings law and all that. Jimmy and Dr. Todd could just work together on a proposed agenda to bring it back to you informally, and then you don't need to have a committee at all.
How you feel about that, Jimmy?
That's fine.
Tammy goes, yeah.
Good idea. That's fine, that works. Yeah, yeah, that's right. And we're in the same town anyway, may as well, right?
Yeah, you all could be somewhere in Hickory, you didn't have to come here.
Now we need to have some social time, Jimmy. Yes, that's exactly.
Tammy,
Yeah, this is Tammy. It would be nice if we had a retreat somewhere where I could stay overnight at that retreat. You know what I'm saying? Just throwing that out there as a possibility.
well, this is why this is Sandy, referred back to, like Mickey said, the time we were in Raleigh or the time that we were here for 2 days. It gave us a chance to talk with each other about things that were not school related. And I thought in Raleigh, having the opportunity to have lunch together and breakfast together, and I don't think I'll forget the Korean dinner we had together. But it was the one thing we could find open at that hour. So let's do that, Jimmy, if you and Kristen can get together. And I mean, there's no time limit, but I just think that the board's in a good place. I think the school is moving to a good place, and I think it would be beneficial to us to sit down and have a conversation outside of a board meeting. Tammy?
Yeah, this is Tammy. Do you have an idea of when you're thinking about? Are you thinking about 2025 or maybe early 2026?
Well, we could even postpone to the summer months. I think Dr. Todd and the staff have gotten off to a very good start this year, and I do think that you've got some things planned periodically through the year. So it could be that we could do it in the summer months and be ready for the beginning of next year. And we could do it somewhere outside of Morganton or outside of where we are. I thought if we wanted to do a day retreat, we might could do something at the scout cabin, which would get us away from the academic buildings. But if you want to do, I mean, y'all just talk about it and decide what you think might be best. So, thank you for letting me bring that up. The other thing I wanted to bring up to you next on the agenda, there's been some question about board terms and how our status is on that. And I reached out to Ian in the absence of our trustee attorney and kept him busy for a while on that, and asked him about board terms and how we can maintain the integrity of the board as we go forward. And basically what I said was that we would like to be able to maintain that anybody that serves on the board would be at least familiar with the School for the Deaf and what it does, and have some connection with the deaf community. So what he sent back to me, and I don't know why I don't have this right here in front of me, was that it is part of the statute, the general statute, that anybody that comes on the board would have some working knowledge of the school or the deaf community. That is part of the mandate within the statute. And that those on the board, you get to this section so I can find it.
I've got the statute. You want me to read it?
Yes, please.
Yeah, because it's hard to find. It's actually in the section involved. So what
I
it
start to
says
say
is-
it's
So
fumbling. I mean,
just very briefly, let's remember that 2 of your members are appointed by the General Assembly upon recommendation of the Speaker of the House. 2 members appointed by the General Assembly upon recommendation of the President of the Senate. As far as the membership being pulled, and then 1 voting member from the State Board of Education. And then, of course, there is Dr. Tate is our member, I believe, from the Secretary of Department of Health and Human Services. And of course, Ray is president of the Alumni Association. So under qualifications, this is the language that's currently in the law. Appointing entities are strongly encouraged to fill the appointments to each board with persons with expertise or experience in the areas of education for those who are deaf or hard of hearing or who are blind or visually impaired, administration and governance, finance and budgeting, or who otherwise have demonstrated concern for quality of education for those who are deaf or hard of hearing or who are blind or visually impaired. So it's strongly encouraged right now in the statute. What is missing is any type of consultation beforehand with anyone. And we all know that can get a little sticky sometimes. I don't know if that's a road you want to go down, but right now, the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate have no obligation to consult with you at all before making an appointment. And again, the language is only strongly encouraged. So I think it does make good sense to talk about, is there a way to beef this up, or even in the absence of some change to statute, do you want to insert yourself into the process in some way? Do you want to have an advisory committee? Do you want to formally ask that the board have an opportunity to weigh in on it? Because I think that obviously this school is different from other political appointments. This is not an honorary position. These are folks like yourself that want to play an active role in the education of deaf and hard of hearing students. So, I think that you are free to try to push this as far and as wide as you want to push it. Whether you want changes to legislation, or whether you just want to ask to be part of a consultative process, or whether you want to put together a list of the characteristics that you believe would be important for them to consider.
Well, going forward, and I'm just gonna throw this out to all the board members. I have seen the difference in the three boards. Ours, Easterns, and GMS. And not because of who we are or our past employments or anything, but I think we're head and shoulders above the other two boards right now. Everybody's been in some way connected to this school in their past. Everybody signs. Everybody can communicate with the staff or students. And the other two boards do not have all of those qualities. So I think we're in a good spot, and the integrity of this board is strong in favor of the school. And I think about in terms of 10 years from now. I don't think in terms of next year or the next, but 10 years from now. And a board that would be faced with what we were faced with when we came on, replacing a director and hiring a superintendent. How would that be handled if it were some other kind of appointments to the board? So this is why, I mean, this has been brought up a couple of times, and I just wanted to see if there was something that we need to do going forward. Do we need to push for some different legislation? Do we, if we still have things out there on the table that we still would like to see passed? Can we add something to that? In what way? And maybe that's something you and I can work on and then share with the rest of the board.
Sure, and this is Chris. I have one other thought. I know that in the community college world, for example, there are appointments from the speaker and the president. They rely heavily on the local delegation, I think, to make those recommendations. Obviously, the speaker and the president of the Senate are very busy, and I think a lot of times they look to the local representatives to give them names. So it may not be a bad idea to engage your local delegation in a conversation about this, and maybe that's part of a broader strategy where you actually have lunch or breakfast with the members of your local delegation, and one of the items for, discussion over a bagel could be, the ability of this board to consult or give recommendations or give criteria that the local delegation would not be legally bound by, but certainly would agree to consider in making appointments. That may be a good place to start.
Yeah.
Engage them.
That is a good place to start.
And
And
of course, Representative Blackwell has been so instrumental
yeah,
in everything that you've done. He would be the place to start.
and
with that as well.
I worry about the fact of him not running again and what happens then. So these are things that definitely, and two, other boards have had occasion for people have left. And so there's had to be some changes made, and not knowing exactly how those changes are going to come about is another thing that has been worrisome. So let's do that. Let's talk about, maybe you and I, Chris, could talk a little bit and then bring it all before the board as to a suggestion, or we could go ahead and maybe set up a breakfast.
And before I forget to, we have some legislative changes that are pending that, again, just need to find a bill, maybe hopefully to get in before they adjourn. So also your legislative agenda might be a retreat topic as well.
Mhm.
So I will get those pending changes to Jimmy and to Kristen. And one of the items they may want to put in your agenda may be a legislative agenda.
Yeah, I think so. I think that,
And I think Dr. Kagan.
With Dr. King. I do have a comment, a question. If we have a Senate appointed representative or some could pull in somebody who is not a local person. And so considering who they would pick, we at NZSD have a very strong, very passionate community. And, with our school and our school staff and their involvement. And there is a very strong opinion that they would have about who would be on the board. And so having some person from the outside being chosen and then appointed here might not be as supported. And then what happens?
So like every other political appointment, and I think a community college is a great example. Currently, the community colleges, the staff are not consulted at all about who might be on the board of trustees. And the board of trustees is not consulted as to who might be on the board of trustees. It's just one day a letter shows up from the Speaker of the House or the President of the Senate's office, and they tell you who's going to be on the board. Your point, the salient point being the vested interest that folks have in this school. People feel very strongly about the community colleges, but I think this is a community. This is much broader. And I think your local delegation would be open to those considerations. And I think that's why having some type of consultation in place would be huge. And then it would be incumbent upon, in my mind, you, Dr. Tate, as a board, to solicit input from your staff so that can be passed on. I don't think that I've never seen a mechanism by which the political elected officials want names necessarily from the institution. But for the institution to have a say in the kind of person that they select, I think they'd be very receptive to that. But just being frank with you, I don't think that elected officials would want any mechanism in which who they choose could be vetted by the school or vetted by the school staff. I don't think they would want to get that. I don't think you'll get a very positive answer to that. But having an input into the qualities, characteristics, qualifications, I would hope you get a very good response.
And there is a good paragraph in that statute that the recommendation that people be somewhat knowledgeable.
Strongly encouraged.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
And you could use that as your springboard to say, yeah, here's what that means to us.
This is Candace here. So just being proactive, it seems like in establishing the relationship with them, with those who are in our delegation. Yeah, that would be making that decision about who would be appointed to the board and then having, that established relationship with them. So then we have that open communication and dialogue where we can figure out who would be the best fit.
and there,
And I think, like Dr. Todd said, doing a good job of developing some political relationships with our key people.
well, that kind of goes without saying. We have to have that piece. We have to have that piece. Because we have had many conversations over the past year in things that will benefit the school, benefit the community, and benefit the board. So, yeah, I think that goes without saying. So that's our homework, Kristen, is to get this up and moving along. Okay, I sent everybody an email about the blanket fundraiser that the school is having. I have heard from Wallace. I've heard from Tammy. Tammy, are you making arrangements with Jennifer to pay on the blankets? Wait a minute. Okay,
Yes.
and for the benefit.
Maybe saying, yes, you're talking about the.
Our attorney, all of our, well, 20 some of our students have been able to buy these blankets, their school blankets. And the board has kind of said we'd like to buy the remainder ourselves and donate them to the students at Christmas. So we're working on the financial of that.
Understood.
Don't know if that was legal or not, but we're doing.
Yes.
It's-
Well, and I'll remind Nikki that she hasn't hit my firm up for any donations lately, so I'm just reminding her of that.
Money's not free.
But back to, I've heard from Ray,
Yeah.
Tammy, Mickey, and Wallace. And this is not a mandatory thing, so, but I will tell you that Jennifer is accepting checks or cash. And we have figured out that,
Venmo
and
too.
Venmo too. Jimmy, did you have something?
That was Tammy. And Apple Pay too, Tammy says, Apple Pay.
Jimmy?
Yeah, this is Jimmy. Just to clarify, so the blankets, how much are they?
$20 each.
20? $20. Okay, all right. So I was a little bit confused because I saw the $100 figure and the $20 figure, so I was trying to figure out how much each blanket was. So they are $20.
For us,
That will support the student, right?
and for us to divide the remainder, it came out to $100 a piece for each of us to pay for the remainder of the blankets. But I've also gotten word from some of our board that if there's a gap, it'll be filled. So just want everybody to know. But Jennifer said the deadline is Monday. So we need to act on that pretty quickly. Okay,
Monday. Okay,
Tammy?
yeah, this is Tammy. So Jennifer said that she would accept Venmo. Can pay through Venmo, of course, or Apple Pay, just to throw that out there in case anybody needs to know that.
Yeah, I was hoping that each one of us would pay to the school direct so that we didn't end up with checks coming to me and me doing something. I wanted everybody to get their own credit for that. Okay? All right. Thank you to all of those who are participating in that. Tammy, you have something else? Tammy?
Yeah, this is Tammy. So, let me think just a minute. Do we need to document on the school about who gave that $100 for tax purposes? Is there a document? Will somebody be taking care of that? Does Jennifer do that? Is that documentation for a donation to the school?
Jennifer will do that.
Okay,
I think.
all right, thank you.
Ask for clarification as well.
I'm gonna talk to her to settle up any missing monies that they need. So I'll ask her about that when I talk to her. She's very aware of what we're doing. So, okay. All right. Thank you very much for that. Dr. Todd has some information for us about the collaboratory that's important. So
Okay, so just understand that we are expecting to become a research partner. It's called a RPP, Research Practice Partner, with the university or the school that provides research. So our administration structure, Def Ed, best practices, et cetera, et cetera. And we are a big part of that. And we have kind of, should I say, we're driving that work, okay? And the legislature has explained or instructed us that if we reach out to our preferred researcher, then we can do that. So we've had several contact us, but we can also on our own make contact. So that's where we are at this point in the process. The research proposal is due October the 22nd. So that's coming up soon. And again, part of that research includes members of the Board of Trustees, me, and other national experts. And part of that research will be looking at other states and their structure. So it could be like educational practices. So that's exciting because we're involved and we can help encourage and steer that.
Tammy,
Yeah, this is Tammy. I have a question. Have you thought about using it's CEASD? I think that is the right acronym. Have you contacted them because of their vast experience with schools for the deaf and programs nationwide? That's just one idea, one thought. This is Dr. Todd. Yeah. So yeah. So that is a national group for sure. So that's awesome. That's a good point. Yes. Yes. Excellent point.
you have a comment, Chris?
So this is Chris, and one thing I want the trustees to keep in mind, and Dr. Todd too, the original legislation, when it talked about the collaboratory, it talked about the collaboratory looking at ways for the three schools to operate more efficiently. So I think we have been very pleased with, gosh, I can't remember her name, Dr. Jenny Korn, is fabulous. I think we were all very impressed with her and her approach to this in terms of providing deaf education and other things. But I just think it's important too for the trustees to remember that the backdrop of all of this too is the General Assembly each and every year is going to be looking at your funding, your structure, how you're providing services statewide. So I think best practices and most fiscally responsible practices for providing statewide deaf education. And this can be a real opportunity for you. You could, and no one's just, it's not to say that the work of the collaboratory could result in more funding for the school if the General Assembly sees that kind of statewide impact about your ability to provide services. But just remember that that's in the backdrop of all of this too. So as you're looking at other states and how they provide deaf education, you constantly be asking yourself, what is the financial impact, or what would the financial impact of this school be? Because that hasn't gone over.
And for the board's benefit, I know Kristen and I have tried to begin to look at this school as the hub for resources for parents, not necessarily our parents, but any parent within our catchment area or the state that needs advice or help. We have the qualified people. We have professionals here that could do that. I think the Deaf Mentor program is going to be a big plus. And that has been my approach in speaking with Representative Blackwell, is that we need to begin to look at the specialty schools as the hubs for the research and the resource with special provision that's out there that could give us 0 to 2 and beginnings folding as such. That leaves an area that the schools could jump in and become a great resource for parents. And for us, an opportunity to kind of squelch that feeling from parents that if we talk to you at the specialty school, then our children are going to have to come there. Not necessarily. And I think this collaboratory and this could be a very open door for us to bring some attention in a positive way to how the schools actually can help the state in the long run. So yeah, I'm excited about that, Dr. Todd. I think we've got a wonderful opportunity here, and let us know what you need from us, okay? The last part of new business is, the Eddie Advisory Committee. I got a thing this afternoon, that is, showing how they're planning to move forward, their work plan and their, new infrastructure. Whew. Tongue got right in front of my eye teeth. I couldn't see what I was saying. Wait for the interpreter to get that one. But anyway, I have shared this with Dr. Todd. We're going to request representation with the committee. And I think we already have a school representative, and we have a representative from the New Deaf and Blind Pathways Foundation. That is the old NCSD Foundation. It has a new name. And we will be trying to work with them in ways to reach out to parents. You want to add anything to that, Dr. Todd?
No, just that it's interesting that Eddie, the work plan is all included. Or it's included, how shall I say that? The Division of Services for Deaf and Hard of Hearing as deaf mentors. That's their plan, but lucky for us, we are ahead of the game. So we already we've got names of our deaf mentors. We have already selected a trainer. And I think we are in a good position, just as Sandy just now mentioned, that we can advocate and we can help.
And I'll also add at this point that we have a very active outreach committee, and we have a very active marketing committee, and I'm not going to steal any of their thunder as they do their reports, but the excitement that we can actually advertise and reach out to parents for as long as I can remember, we've not been able to do that. So this is truly a wonderful experience, opportunity for us. We are at the end of new business. The group here in this room has been sitting for an hour and a half. I'm going to give us about a 2-minute break just to stand up and stretch, and then we'll come right back to the old business.
Set a good example.
You did. The old bones are beginning to creak. Ray, I think you're still there, somewhere. Okay. We are ready for old business and Mickey.
Okay, so, more policy information. We had two policies that had their first reading from when we met in August. And one of those policies, the second one on the list, 4240, which is child abuse and related threats to child safety. There's been a lot of discussion about that, and it's possible that one might be tabled, but Candace would like to speak to that for us. Updates.
Sure. This is Sergeant Pink. And the Student Health Committee have met several times and discussed this policy specifically, as well as staff and student relations, and a few other critical policies that have sensitive topics. And part of the struggle is that this is very serious, but also we need to add the residential life piece. And that has more specific changes for the deaf community and deaf students in it, and the diversity within that community. Whereas this policy as a whole would require us to sort of keep our attention as that this group of policies is requiring our attention. So this is not something that we don't want to just take lightly and just glance over and pass. This is something that we really want to take our time with and make the accurate adjustments that we think are going to be the most important. And so we are working to kind of have, something. I know we have something temporary in place, but we'll see how the new policy can work in the future.
So yes, this is Sandy. That policy is being asked to be held over for a while.
Do we need to do anything? Just,
Since it's up for second reading, I think we can go ahead and just make a motion that it be tabled for now.
Okay.
Okay.
And we can just take kind of the standalone motion right now. If there's no
Okay.
objection.
do I have a motion to, let policy 4240, continue to be tabled as more work is done?
And Tanya and thank you to Tanya, she just sent a quick instant message reminding me that you had approved the policy for temporary approval. So it's actually in effect right now. We can still table it for purposes of second reading, but that's a great point thank you, Tanya, that yes, it's still, because a lot of this is legally required. As Dr. Tate said, the challenge is not, do you report to the state board or to DSS or to law enforcement? Yes, you do. And we know when and we know in what environments, but how this policy interrelates with all of your environmental circumstances and any special considerations for the deaf community, I think is exactly what she is speaking to.
Mhm.
So the school will, for members of the public, continue to report to DSS, to law enforcement, and to the state board, and that's why we did the temporary approval. But it's just the nuances matter when it comes to how this policy applies to the school. So I feel, with that being said, good to go ahead and take the motion and table it.
Okay. Do I have a motion to table it for continued work and review?
This is Tammy. Speaking, I move that policy 4240 be tabled for the current time.
Thank you, Tammy. Do I have a second?
This is Jimmy. I second.
Thank you, Jimmy. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, thank you so much.
You're- so,
So the last policy that we have is 50/20 visitors to the schools. I had our safety officer, Mr. Edward Long, Eddie, some of us know him, to look over that and as well as some members of our committee, and we feel it is good as it stands. And he felt the same, Mr. Long. So
we're ready to vote.
ready to vote. Do I have a motion to accept this policy as written?
This is Jimmy.
Thank you, Jimmy. Do I have a second?
Sorry, you couldn't say, I
Oh, I'm
move to accept the policy, for 2020. To be accepted as written. And this is Tammy, I second.
Thank you, Tammy. Any further discussion? Not all in favor, raise your hand. Everybody. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ms. Mark. We got through those. 50/20 has passed. Just want to remind everybody while we're in old business that we still have hours to complete as far as training. So, and thankfully we can now use the videos and get those done in our own time. So, I understand that Tammy and Jimmy are leading the pack in getting all of that accomplished. So yay. The rest of us will try to catch you.
Tammy says I'll take a bow.
Okay, all right. Anything else? I do want to add one thing right here that since we're talking about policies. And all of us know that policies are a revolving door. So we know that we'll have to look at those periodically, and we had a request to look into an attendance policy. And we did find in research with our legal team that we have 7,500 that is in HR policies that we have passed. And it does have a paragraph on attendance. And that all employees are expected to be present during all working hours, and absence without prior approval, chronic absences, habitual tardiness, or abuses of designated working hours are considered neglect of duty and will result in disciplinary action up to and involving dismissal. And I bring this up at this meeting to remind all of our staff that that policy is in effect. It has been passed. And the other part of that for your leadership team, Dr. Todd, is that we also passed policy 2470, administrative procedures, and the superintendent is responsible for developing the procedures for these policies and the consequences. So that will come directly from the superintendent's office with in connection with HR. So I wanted to bring that up today to let everybody know that if you see a policy or you run across something in a policy that we need to look at and maybe tweak, we can do that. Okay. Now, committee updates. Wallace is not here tonight, so I've asked Dr. Todd to bring up the things that they talked about in their last finance committee meeting. So, Dr. Todd, I will turn that over to you.
This committee committee meeting happened where we received the 400,000. That's when we were informed of that, since the previous one. At the time of this budget meeting that we had, there was no update at that time. So we were still going on the personnel actions were still on hold. But we are continuing to keep 7.2 positions on hold. 6.2, excuse me, it's 7 positions, because you can't have a point of a person position, but it's 7 positions still on hold. Until we can actually have a passed budget and move forward with that. And also at this meeting, we talked about the legislature updates that we've already talked about. And I do want to mention one thing that we talked about related to safety at the school, and that our safety officer mainly at the school. We previously had MOU with the Morganton Public Safety Department. And they are having some staff shortages at the moment, sort of temporarily. So currently, we've sort of changed over to using temp solutions for hiring their off-duty officer. And so that was maybe not the best for us and for our students. And so we are looking into maybe other options, maybe setting something up with Groton Hospital's police. I do have a meeting with them. I had a meeting with them with the chief of police at Broughton. And I'm in touch with DSDHH. So we're looking at adding our NCSD back to the general statute, so that we could hopefully be able to set it an MOU with Broad Hospital, and then have that as more of a permanent full-time commitment. And then we also just talked about the collaboratory. And I've already updated you guys about that. So
Thank you very much for doing that for us. Policy committee. Oh, my God. You can just say that you've asked for more.
Yes, I have prodded Ian to please send more. I'm very bored. But Ian will send more, or perhaps Chris will send more, but we are working our way through the 4,000. I have no idea how many. I do not want to look to find out, but we have started on it. The ones that we, what did you say?
It's 3 pages.
3 pages. I'll be dead by then. We have started on the 4,000s, and we will continue to work through them until we are done. That's my report.
Okay, good job. HR committee. I will intersect right here and say that I have asked Dr. Tate to pull the HR committee together since we had the discussion with some of our leadership about HR policies, and take another quick look over those and see if there's anything we're missing or need. Now you can give your report.
give you a big smile.
You finished? Okay, that finishes that report. Our meetings are such fun. Jimmy, marketing.
Jenny. So our marketing committee met last September 19th. last week, and we were working through several issues, one with the brochures and then the website. And from my understanding, the brochures, we're kind of to the deadline of having them finished. They're not quite at 100% yet, but there's still a few more edits we'd like to make. Sort of fonts and things like that, making sure that it's deaf blind friendly as well. It has good readability. So, and also still working on the website. That's taking a little bit more time. That's a little more in-depth of what we need to go through. We're gonna have to really kind of plug through that process. The state license is gonna expire in December for that, and so we're trying to kind of just work with the website as best we can and just try to get through that. It is going, it's moving forward, and we've made some headway with that. The vision is just working on the comment shared section where people have, sent us sort of their testimonies and things of their experience. So we've got that kind of in the Google Drive, and we're figuring out, how we want to put all that together. But we'd like to show you something next month, maybe when we get it a little bit more refined. And then that would kind of just show what our plan is, because we have so many different comments that we'd like to put in there, and we don't want it to just be pages of comments. So we're trying to figure out a nice, clean way to kind of have that listed on the website. And once we've kind of got that figured out, our meeting next week, then I'd like to actually share the website with you so that you can see the vision of how this all connects together. Tammy, this is Tammy. Do you have somebody from the research community, the outreach committee, thank you, that's working with you on your committee? Is Yolanda working with you? Yes, she is, Jimmy saying. And Tim saying, because I saw something on the spreadsheet from the outreach committee talking something about that. And he said, yes, there's been a lot of review and it's not quite 100% done. We still want to make a few more edits, but it's pretty close. We just really want it to look good, since this is definitely going to be something that's going to be passed out statewide and, so that's online. So really having that kind of vision within the brochure and the website is key. So we're moving along. We're almost there. Anything else anybody wants to add or ask? Thank you.
I just want to thank you and your committee for the hard work you've done. I know you all have been really in the weeds on this, and I want to thank Jason too for all that he's done with this. They have really gotten down on this brochure, and I think it's something we're all going to be very proud of when they finally unveil. Student behavior health.
Kids here. So I thought we'd already talked kind of about the behavioral health yesterday. We have continued discussions and technical adjustments, reviewing abuse, child abuse, and staff and student relationships. And so those are the big ones that we're looking at. So that's still in review, but there is a third policy that is related to BTAM, behavioral threatening assessment management. And that is huge, a very complex, very detailed one. And so that is new. We are still kind of working our way through that, kind of learning about those. I think it's only maybe the second year that that's even been a requirement by the state. So there's a little bit of a struggle with that one. But we are working through that. Dr. and I are working through that. and how we can move forward with establishing that in a policy. And who needs to be doing what within that for each piece of that. So it's a little bit complex. Part of, what we're working on at the moment with the student behavioral health.
Thank you. I would like to make a comment. Dr. Tate and her committee. I was very impressed yesterday. When Dr. Tate came in and said, I'm going to revamp this whole committee. And I thought the committee took it extremely well and just grabbed hold of all the jobs they needed to do. And I just compliment you on taking that initiative and bringing that committee into a good working situation. And it was another plus for doing our work this way in the committees, because everybody's got a voice, everybody's got a way to express what works and what doesn't work. And that was very commendable. Here, this is for you. Residential life is working away. That's a great committee. If you really want to get into the nuts and bolts of dormitory situation, come to one of those meetings. And Dr. Todd has some of the best news I've heard in a long time, because a lot of times at residential schools, this is the one negative area that you get a lot, and that is the dormitory situation. But talk about your 20%.
Yeah. Okay. So, since school started, we have increased by 20% in the number of the numbers in our dorm. And some of those are students who have been typically day students for many years. And they are now seeing, oh, what's going on in the dorm? And that's a little bit more motivation for them to kind of get involved and be a part of the dorm. So I think there is a lot of improvement with our residential life staff and situation and there. So it's validating.
It does, and I'm telling you that it just warmed my heart to hear that we have day students that want to stay over and be part of the dormitory life. So, I mean, people were making things work.
Yes.
Vicki, anything from academics?
I'm trying to remember what Kristen and I talked about. There is now, the dormitory now has a curriculum that they have chosen, correct?
Yes.
And which goes right along with, making things really positive in the dormitory. They're gonna have, it's not just gonna be a place to sleep and play. It's gonna be a place to do some learning as well.
Yeah.
Is there any other news for curriculum?
The curriculum, no. Now we have ordered that, but we're still waiting.
One other thing about the residential life, another part of good news, Jimmy, I'm gonna come right back to you, is the new setup in Hoffmeyer. And, in Hoffmeyer and our high school students beginning to become very self-sufficient. You want to talk about that a little bit? The cooking?
Yeah, they're cooking. Just enjoying feeling older, having a little bit of separation from some of the younger students that are in the dorm. And I think that's given them some self-esteem.
And if you have not gone to the School for the Deaf Facebook page, please do. They have great pictures of them cooking. They even requested that housekeeping not come back over there for a while, and if the students start taking on some of those duties and learning experiences. So I'm very, very, very excited about all of that. Orlando is not here, but I do know the outreach committee has been working very hard on their approach to getting into contact with parents early on. And there's nothing to stop us now from being right there with everybody else at the door when we find out that a child has been born with a hearing loss, and we can offer a helping hand. And Jimmy, let me go back to you and your comment or question. I'm sorry.
This is Julie. I'm gonna back up a little bit and talking about the residential life. There have been changes in residential life where a lot of deaf schools are using that term, residential life, and they felt like that was sort of a negative or traumatic or, carrying some baggage from years gone by. So now they're saying, they're calling it, sorry, assuming,
Student.
regular, this is student life. But sorry. Yeah, they're calling it student life instead of residential life. And so when we're talking about day students being segregated out by, from the dorm students, this is just really speaking to, this is just student life. It's all students, day student, doesn't matter. We want all students at whatever language abilities to be a part of that. So however that, comes out, we want it to be altogether student life.
And I think, Jimmy, that goes back and kind of connects to the way the legislature has been referring to us as specialty schools instead of residential schools. And I've tried to make myself change that label, that we are the specialty schools and not the residential schools. But that's a great point. Dr. Todd, did you have something you need to add?
I was just gonna mention, yes, we have actually said that we are gonna be making that change to student life. And I just mess up all the time. I still say, residential life, so I need the reminder. Timmy, that's her hand raised. This is Timmy. I want to go back to the outreach committee. Linda is the chair, but I was planning to attend, I wanted to attend the outreach committee meeting as we move forward as just a board member there. And so we'll be a part of that, I'm hoping, but I don't know if we're wanting her to give a report in the future. Sandy, is that what you're thinking, that she's gonna take over the report, or is that something that, what's that role? I guess, because I think I'm a co-chair as well. Or am I still a co-chair or a chair, or I'm a little confused. But because I'm able to give a report if we would like
Okay.
to do that.
And Tammy, what?
And I did go, I have, went to the first meeting that we had just recently. It was kind of focused on marketing. And that Jimmy kind of talked about already, we were kind of working with the brochure. And what's the third Friday of each month.
And Tammy, why don't you and Orlando work out that you'll be happy to give the reports to the board at the board meetings? I think that would work out very well.
Yeah, okay, great.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, I'm happy to do that.
And I will say that the outreach committee is working on a brochure of their own that can be presented to parents. And they're working closely with marketing so that they overlap some things, but not everything. So I think that they've done a great job on that. Both committees are doing really well. Is there anything else, Tammy?
But I did want to say something else, again, related to the outreach committee. They are wanting to partner with Eddie in that process. I know that they're gonna have a new person there with that. So that'll be maybe a good opportunity for us to kind of get our foot in the door and kind of work with them. And so we'll figure out who that is. I'm just letting you know that's kind of on our agenda, what we'd like to do.
Mhm. And once again, this goes back to the new bills and how we can speak up for ourselves now a lot more. And so as we get all of this ready to go, I think we're going to be able to reach our parents a whole lot easier. Okay, does anybody have anything else that we need to come up before the board in open session? Okay, if not, we do have an item to discuss in closed session. So if our legal team will give us the motion.
Well, this is Chris, and much to everyone's chagrin, instead of continuing to give you the motion, it is now printed in your agenda. It's not, so a board member can simply make a motion to move into closed session as printed in the agenda.
We can,
Now, if you'd like for me to do it, I'll be happy to do it.
Mickey, why don't you read it?
Again, this is all part of our evolution, Madam Chair. This is all part of.
We're finally operating as a board.
Or you can read.
It's right there.
Okay. Closed session. Do I read all those numbers first?
You can literally say to go into closed session.
As
Printed in.
stated in or printed in the bullet. The bulletin, it's not church, sorry. You just threw me for a loop. Printed in the agenda.
Do I have a second?
This is Timmy and Jimmy. Timmy saying I second.
Okay, all in favor of going to closed session at this time, raise your hand. And we will take a 3-minute break, come back in at 6:10.
Education,
Do I have a second?
Jimmy?
Okay, we have a second. All of those in favor of accepting this recommendation, raise your hand. Congratulations, Dr. Todd, you have a Dean of Education. With no further ado, do I have you all have anything else you want to talk about? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
This is Mickey, I so move.
Okay, is there a second? Okay,
Timmy said I second.
all those, before we take a vote, our next meeting will be December the 4th in Hoffmeyer Cafeteria in person. I'll look forward to seeing you all there. I'm not sure when they're doing it. They haven't announced yet. I'm not sure. Okay, all those in favor of adjourning, raise your hand. Thank you very much for being here. I'm sorry it has gone so long, but we had a lot to talk about. Thank you. Good evening. Have a good night. My battery's about to die.
That's every meeting.
End of